Hi, everyone. My name is Hyung Kim. For those of you who don't know me yet, I am a faculty in the management department in the Norm Brodsky College of Business. Currently, I am teaching multiple classes in our department, including the intro class in our major, also the advanced capstone, the capstone course called Advanced Leadership. I also teach the negotiations class as well as the executive communications class for the Writer MBA program. And I wanted to take this opportunity to share with all of you an exercise that I've been doing in the Writer MBA program executive communications class that students really liked. And so hopefully this is something that will be helpful to you as I share this with you. So just to give you a little bit of background, I want to tell you that this exercise is on critical listening skills. I know in the business school there is a lot of emphasis on the presentation side of things. There's a lot of emphasis on preparing students to be better presenters, much less so on critical active listening skills, which is an really important part of interpersonal communication, and quite honestly, something that's been very undervalued in our education. So I have an exercise that I do with the MBA students. It's been very well received, and I would like to share a little bit of what that exercise entails. So I'm going to go through some of the PowerPoint slides that I have to just kind of give you a glimpse of into what I do in the classroom with the students. So here, let me share. We'll share that. Great. So again, this is an exercise on listening that I do with the Writer MBA students. And I do this because students really, don't have much of an opportunity to really practice listening skills, and is one of the most underutilized, but also one of the most powerful tools that we have in the workplace to improve interpersonal communication. And so it involves an intensive partner listening exercise that at times students find a little awkward in the beginning, but as they push through, they start to really see the value in the exercise, and ultimately they say they really learned a lot from it. So I start out by really defining what listening is about. Is listening in this interpersonal context involving non-judgmental, authentic, empathic, and respectful listening. And it's something that we kind of know what it is, but we don't really practice it enough. And so then I go on sharing some of the science of not listening. I also share what listening is not, the different types of non-listeners. And as students go through these various categories, they realize, oh, like, yeah, I tend to be one of these. And they realize that a lot of the descriptions really described their listening or non-listening patterns. Because listening is important in the workplace, I also discuss a little bit how this affects performance. There's a lot of research out there showing that good listening skills are associated with better performance in the workplace. So for instance, job satisfaction goes up when people feel listened to by their peers or by their supervisors. Clearly there's a lot of research that shows the various benefits of listening in the workplace. And so bottom line here is that listening is really safe, powerful, and remarkably underutilized in the workplace. And so what does this exercise really entail? The exercise really is about actively listening to your partner. So students are paired into dyads. And they engage in this exercise with a partner. And basically, this is an exercise where people alternate speaking and listening. So partner 1 will speak for 3 minutes, then partner 2 will then speak for 3 minutes, and then I make longer the duration of the speaking sessions, such that then they speak for 5 minutes nonstop, and the other partner can only listen; they cannot interject. And finally, they take turns speaking for 7 minutes without interruption. So this is something that's actually pretty hard. The first 3 minutes is pretty easy for everyone. Then 5 minutes gets a little bit tougher. And then by 7 minutes, everyone, is a little bit more, it's definitely more challenging. And one person in each pair, when they speak, they can only listen. The other person is a speaker and they can only listen. So there's definitely some silence. There is some awkwardness sometimes, but I ask them to really push through and to really, really pay attention to what their partner is saying. And the feelings that they have as they're listening to the other person. What do you feel? What does it feel like to listen to someone for 5 minutes, for 7 minutes, not having the ability to interject? And so then we do this. So just to give you a sense of what are some of the questions that we talk about, what would you be doing if money were no object, for instance? Also, I asked them to talk about, when do you feel most fulfilled at work? What contributes to you feeling this way? And so they share these things with their partner. Again, for 5 minutes, then they have, I come up with different questions just to give you a sense of some of the questions I've given them before. What do you wish other people understood about you? And they have to talk about that for 5 minutes, and the other person can only listen. So when both of them are done with these questions, then we move on to the 7 minutes. And I asked them to imagine last year what your graduation day would look like in 2020. This is obviously before the pandemic, and what would it mean for you to consider your short time in business school to be a success and feel proud? What's a failure? Why would you feel regret, etc.? And so, they really discuss these things for 7 minutes with their partner. And then we finally have an opportunity to really reflect together and to discuss the process of it. How did you feel? What did you hear your partner say? What did you hear yourself say? How did you feel? And, people will say things like, yeah, I felt awkward. It was a little awkward. I constantly wanted to interject, and it was an effort to not say anything during the 5 minutes, 7 minutes. But a lot of times people say things like, you know what, it was just really nice to have the space to really, not rush through things and have the ability to think. And I realized that some of the really deeper stuff came out after some silence, after I really dug in. And it was really nice to, because we always have that elevator pitch ready for a minute or two, and beyond that, sometimes we feel like we're not ready to say anything deeper. Having that opportunity to talk for 5 minutes, 7 minutes really gave me an opportunity to really say deeper things. And the listening partner often will say things like, we are always pressured to say something witty, something smart. In the workplace, there's always that pressure. It was really nice to be able to just kind of relax and listen to the other person, like truly listen without interjecting. And I'm so glad we had this opportunity to get to know one another better through this exercise. So I've gotten a lot of good feedback on sort of the usefulness of the exercise. And after we do the debrief, talking about sort of the benefits of listening, we then go, we talk about why this is important. And I briefly go over the fact that in a lot of AACSB accredited business schools, a lot of the emphasis is really on the presenting side of things. Listening, as you can see in this chart, it's not something that's highly emphasize, and partly because it's difficult to measure, assess listening. What is good listening? How do we even assess that? Whereas something like presentation, perhaps is a little bit harder to assess. There's no doubt, though, that listening is an important skill in the workplace. And in fact, it came up as number one and in terms of important in the workplace. And so something that we feel like is definitely underutilized, yet being very, very powerful. So how do we apply this at work? Just kind of wrap up by saying, what is the relevance of this exercise in the workplace? Obviously, it doesn't mean that all of us are going to have 5 minutes, 7 minutes, to talk about, issues with a partner, in the workplace. So, what is the relevance of this exercise in the workplace? I think that the overall sort of lesson of this exercise is that, and one of the things that students agree, is that really giving people the space to talk about their problems, or, giving them the space to really talk, and giving them that space will help them solve their own problems, okay? Just by listening to them without immediately jumping to advice, people can draw the answer out of others. And so that's really powerful, because we don't need to constantly jump to advice. By simply listening, people have the capacity to solve their own problems. And it's really an empowering experience for both the listener and the speaker. And I encourage our students to really practice what I call wait. Asking yourself, why am I talking before speaking? And really sort of strengthen their listening skills, and practice active listening more with other people. And so this is something that I've done in my communications class. I wanted to share this with my colleagues at Writer. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions about this exercise, you can reach out to me via email. Thank you.